On a quiet farm nestled between rolling green hills and a creek that whispered through the mornings, there lived a draft horse named Calder. He was enormous, nearly 18 hands tall, with a chest as wide as a barn door and hooves the size of dinner plates. When he pulled the heaviest wagon across the muddy field, the earth trembled beneath him. When he stood still at the edge of the meadow, he looked like something carved from the landscape itself. But Calder was gentle. Profoundly, peacefully gentle. He was the kind of animal that let butterflies rest on his muzzle without flinching. He moved carefully through the yard so he would never accidentally step on a wandering chicken. When the old barn cat wanted to sleep in the warmest corner of his stall, Calder simply shifted his enormous body to the cold side and said nothing. The farmer loved this about him. The other animals, however, began to notice something different. It started with the goats. One morning, Calder was grazing near the fence line, the sweet patch of clover he had been slowly working toward all week. Two young goats trotted up, bumped him sideways with their heads, and began eating his clover without a second glance. Calder looked at them. They did not look back. He stepped aside. "They're just goats," he told himself. "It's only clover. There is more grass beyond the hill." And he moved on. A week later, the pigs decided that Calder's corner of the water trough, the shaded side, the cool side, the side he had always preferred, was now their corner. When he approached, they jostled and grunted and pushed against his legs. Again, Calder stepped aside. "They're thirsty," he told himself. "I can wait." And he did. Then came the rooster. Small, ridiculous, loud, a creature whose head barely reached Calder's knee, and yet the rooster had discovered something wonderful. If he strutted directly at Calder's feet, flapping and shrieking, the great horse would simply move out of the way. So every morning, the rooster chased Calder away from his grain bucket. Not because the rooster wanted the grain, he had his own feed on the other side of the yard. He did it because he could. Because nothing happened when he did. And word travels fast, even on a small farm. Soon the yard had a new unspoken rule: Calder moves for everyone. The old sow nudged him away from the shade tree. The barn dog took his favorite sleeping spot near the warm wall. Even the chickens, those small-brained, scatter-footed things, learned to walk directly through his path and watch him step aside. Calder was the largest animal on the farm. He was also the one who ate last, rested least, and was pushed the most. He told himself it was kindness. He told himself he was peaceful. But deep inside, in that quiet place that animals and people alike carry and rarely speak of, he knew it was something else. He had simply stopped believing he deserved to stay. One October morning, a truck rumbled up the gravel road and stopped at the gate. The farmer unloaded a new horse. She was a mare, smaller than Calder, leaner, with a coat the color of dark coffee and eyes that were calm in a way that was different from Calder's calm. His calm was the calm of retreat. Hers was the calm of someone who had already decided. Her name was Sable. The farmer led her into the yard, unclipped her lead rope, and stepped back. The rooster saw her immediately. He assessed her the way he assessed everything, as an opportunity. He puffed his chest, stretched his wings, and marched toward her with all the menace a 4-pound bird could carry. Sable watched him come. She did not move. She did not flinch or shuffle or look away. She simply stood still as a stone in a river and watched the rooster advance. The rooster slowed. He was 3 feet away now, and something in the mare's stillness confused him. He was used to movement. He was used to the satisfying scramble of something larger backing away. Without that, his performance had no audience. He stopped. Sable blinked once, slowly, and turned to begin exploring the fence line. The rooster stood alone in the middle of the yard for a long moment. Then he walked away. Calder watched all of this from beside the water trough. He had never seen that before. In the days that followed, Calder observed Sable carefully. It was not that she was aggressive. She never bit, never kicked, never pinned her ears and lunged. She was not mean. She was not cold. She was simply present. When the goats drifted toward her clover patch, she turned her body to face them, not threatening, just facing.
The goats, encountering a boundary they could feel but couldn't quite explain, drifted elsewhere.
When the sow tried to shoulder her away from the water trough, Sable held her ground.
The sow pushed once, twice, and then gave up.
There was no violence in it. There was just refusal. Quiet, absolute refusal. One evening, as the sun turned the sky copper and gold, Sable came to stand beside Calder near the fence.
For a long while, neither of them said anything.
They simply stood together and watched the light change. Then Sable spoke in the quiet language that horses share, a language of posture and breath and presence.
They don't push you because they're mean, she said. They push you because you've taught them that pushing works.
Calder was quiet for a long time. I thought moving aside was kindness, he said.
Sometimes it is, Sable replied. But there is a difference between choosing to give and always giving because you don't believe you're allowed to keep. How do you know the difference?
She was quiet.
Then, when you move for someone, does it feel like a gift or does it feel like losing something you deserve to keep? Calder had no answer.
But somewhere inside him, something shifted, like a stone rolling off a hillside, slow at first, and then gaining speed. The next morning began as all mornings did.
Calder walked to his grain bucket.
The rooster appeared at the edge of the yard, already puffing, already preparing his performance. He began his march, wings out, beak forward, the ridiculous strutting theater that had worked 100 times before. Calder turned to face him. He did not step forward. He did not posture or threaten. He simply stood still. He was aware of how large he was for the first time in what felt like years. He was aware of the ground beneath his hooves and the weight of his own chest and the solid reality of his presence in this yard. The rooster advanced to 2 feet away. Then 1 foot. Calder held his ground. The rooster stopped. There was a long, strange moment, bird and horse, looking at each other in the early morning light.
And in that moment, the rooster seemed to understand something.
Not through any cruelty Calder had shown, but through something simpler, the absence of fear.
The rooster turned and walked back across the yard. He did not try again that morning. Or the next.
It spread outward the way all true changes do, quietly, without announcement. The goats, approaching Calder's clover patch later that week, met a horse who was already facing them, already present. They grazed elsewhere, unbothered, as if nothing had changed. The pigs found the water trough had no more preferred corners, only a large horse who stood calmly at the side he had always preferred, and did not appear to be moving. The chickens still walked through the yard in their scattered, chaotic way. But they walked around him now, because walking into him produced no reward. The farm did not become a place of conflict.
If anything, it became quieter.
More settled. Because here is what Calder discovered: the animals had never been trying to defeat him. They had simply been following the logic he had given them.
Moving gets you what you want. So keep pushing.
When the logic changed, so did the behavior. And Calder, still gentle, still careful, still the kind of creature who let butterflies rest on his muzzle, ate his grain in peace. He slept in his corner.
He drank from the cool, shaded side of the water trough. Not because he had become hard,
but because he had finally understood that kindness offered from a place of self-worth is a gift, while kindness offered from a place of self-erasure is a slow disappearance. He had not disappeared. He had simply returned. The farm settled into a different kind of peace that autumn, not the peace of silence and tolerance, but the deeper peace of a place where everyone knew where they stood. Calder and Sable grazed side by side in the evenings, watching the light change over the hills.
He was still the largest animal on the farm.
But for the first time in a long time, that felt like something true again. The story of Calder is not a story about fighting back.
It is a story about stopping.
About the moment you realize that the disrespect you have been quietly tolerating has not been happening despite your kindness, it has been made possible by it.
There is a difference between kindness and the disappearance of yourself.
There is a difference between patience and the surrender of what is rightfully yours.
There is a difference between being peaceful and being absent.
Respect is not given to those who demand it loudly. It is given to those who, one quiet morning, simply stop moving. People often repeat the behavior we quietly tolerate. And sometimes, the biggest change in your life begins with something very small. The moment you calmly stand your ground.